सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। ओम। May Brahman protect us both. May Brahman bestow upon us both the fruit of knowledge. May we both obtain the energy to acquire knowledge. May what we both study reveal the truth. May we cherish no ill feeling toward each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto you all. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Pada Padme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Om Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Sri Ramakrishna on the threshold of youth. As we briefly mentioned, Ram Kumar, the eldest brother of Sri Ramakrishna, he was a married person and his wife did not conceive for a long time, and at last she conceived. Ram Kumar was an astrologer, so he found out even from earlier times that once his wife conceives, then as soon as she gives birth, she will die. In one way he was happy she did not conceive. But on the other side, every householder longs to have a lineage so that he would be given prayers, Shraddha ceremony and other ceremonies will be done. It is a very strong feeling among Hindus that they should continue the lineage, so they must have a son, not a daughter. Why? Because a daughter always goes to someone else's home, but a son is supposed to remain at home. But who could imagine that society changes so much nowadays? Even sometimes it is the daughters who are staying and the boys are going America, Australia and so many other places. Yes, it is becoming very difficult for people to continue that tradition. This lady, Ram Kumar's wife, gave birth to a son called Akshay, and immediately she passed away. So this is also very interesting for us because Sri Ramakrishna, though he did not have children, he experienced how it is to bring up a child, and Akshay practically grew in the hands of Sri Ramakrishna. And he was a very great soul, there was no doubt about it. Very highly devoted, very pure-minded. Sri Ramakrishna experienced a lot of things. And one or two incidents also, Sri Ramakrishna says, a pure mind sees pure consciousness everywhere. So whenever we use that word pure, purity means what? A person who perceives God, another name for consciousness, is called purity. That is like, a thick curtain covers the light. You remove a little bit of that curtain. That means what? The window has become a little bit pure. That means what? To that extent, light is admitted. Admitted means automatically it streams in. So we must always keep in mind that purity means perception, realization of more consciousness, more and more consciousness. So Sri Ramakrishna gives an example. A small child sees everything alive. So he says, like a small child, that I want to catch dragonfly. I want to catch. Some natural sound. He says, shh, don't make any noise. As though they were things alive, consciously they are making noise, and he is saying now. Then he also says, rainy season, there would be lightning. So he sees this lightning. Uncle, there, somebody is striking the match. When you strike a match, the light comes out. So like that, as though the streaks of lighting. What Sri Ramakrishna meant to say, in a child's mind is equivalent to a pure mind, uncontaminated mind, they see everything alive. Whereas the more we grow up, the more we grow reason, the less we are likely to feel the liveliness. So in fact, everything is alive. So we do not say that this table is alive. But for a child, a table is alive. Every sound is made by some living being. So that perception of God, more of living thing everywhere. That's what Sri Ramakrishna refers in the gospel. So Sri Ramakrishna knew what had happened. But even long before Akshay was born, this lady had practically, she upset the whole family. There were some rules. Nobody should eat food before offering to God. But as soon as this lady conceived, she will eat whatever she likes without offering to God, and slowly the poverty was also increasing. What was happening previously, that small plot of land was sufficient for not only looking after the family, but even to share it with some beggars and others. Now, Ramkumar started feeling. So he thought that was one reason, or we also think that why he said, I must earn more money for maintaining the household. And what did he do? There is only one option. So he could go to outside Kamarpukur, some prosperous either town or a city, and start a toll. They had no option. Toll means a kind of Sanskrit school. So Ramkumar decided his chances are better at Calcutta. That is what he thought, that because poverty is there, so he had to come. But the divine plan was there. That is, he had to come to Calcutta, and he had to bring young Gadadhar there, because big preparation is going on long before that. But this was what we briefly discussed in our past class. There is extraordinary things were happening in the village. Until Sri Ramakrishna left, he was quite a young man now. So what were the changes that were taking place? If we study the lives of many great incarnations, in some of them, these childhood incidents, we will see there are certain common things, there are certain things uncommon. So briefly, we will study. Before that, Swami Dayatmananda describes it, the effect of the death of Ramkumar's wife on the family. There came many changes in the life of the family at Kamarpukur on the death of Ramkumar's wife. Chandra Devi was now compelled to take upon herself the burden of all the household duties, including the care of Ramkumar's little child Akshay. Then briefly, Swami Dayatmananda gives the story of Rameshwar. You know, Sri Ramakrishna had two more brothers. The middle brother's name was Rameshwar, because Kshudiram went to Rameshwar on pilgrimage. Soon after that, he got this child. That's why he named him as Rameshwar. Nowadays also, you know, if anybody had gone on a pilgrimage, and after that if he has a child, usually they think it is the grace of that particular deity and try to name either male god's name or female goddess name, they will do that. This Rameshwar was an extraordinary personality. Ramkumar's life, we know a little bit more. But Rameshwar's life, we know very little. He was an extraordinary person, devoted to God and devoted to monks. So very briefly I will read. Rameshwar's learning never helped him to make a good living. On the other hand, he spent much time in talking to the wandering monks and religious men whenever he met them, and he did not hesitate to supply all their wants. This was something extraordinary. You know, the family of Sri Ramakrishna was very poor. Barely they were able to live. But if any monk comes and says, I need a utensil, immediately he will give. And of course there would be a violent protest. Not really violent, because in those days the wives and others, they were very obedient. So they would protest. If you give away, how are we going to do? They were not rich family, you must always remember. he says that Rama will look after. He had that faith. He sometimes spent more than he earned and lived a carefree life thinking somehow Raghuveer will provide for the family. And what were his thoughts towards his younger brother, Gadadhar? Says Rameshwar dearly loved his brother, but had neither the inclination nor the leisure to keep an eye on his brother's education. So he was a carefree type of person, not very responsible person, but he was a very great person. How do we know? He was a very spiritual person. Swami Sharadanji mentions one fact. Every single members of the household of Sri Ramakrishna was unique in a particular way. So one thing common among all these family holders, they were all spiritual. There is no question of somebody believing in God, somebody not believing in God, somebody half believing in God. Whereas Swami Vivekananda's family, if you see, Swami Vivekananda was devoted to God. And his youngest brother, Mahendranath, he was devoted to religion. He believed many miraculous things and many hodgepodge things also. He wrote also the science of vibration and all that. He wrote some books like that. What about his middle brother, Bhupendranath Datta? He was a pakka communist. And he wrote also criticizing that you became a monk, leaving us all hanging in the mid-air like that. Very interesting. He was devoted to his eldest brother, appreciated what his brother did, and appreciated also what he did to the family. And he believed in communism. Whereas Sri Ramakrishna's household, totally, completely having faith, extraordinary faith. How do we know? Rameshwar, just before his passing away, he made a resolution. He said, after my death, after I am cremated, you bury my ashes beneath where this road, where people used to walk. What was the reason? Because this is an extraordinary type of desire or request. What was his reasoning? He said, you must remember, in those days, many holy people used to make pilgrimage to Ganga Sagar, and the route to Ganga Sagar was by the way of Kamarpur. That is why Sri Ramakrishna, as a childhood, was spent a lot with these monks and other people. So also Rameshwar. But now people don't go anymore there. So many extraordinary leelas we discussed here in the class were done, and Sri Ramakrishna used to go and meet with these monks, eat with them, learn the devotional songs, and learn so many good things, and also observed how fake sadhus, they used to pretend to meditate, and he was a very observant boy. All this was possible only because in those days that was the only way for people to reach Ganga Sagar from the North India. So Rameshwar felt that he every time a sadhu treads that particular path, and the dust of that sadhu's feet will be passing over him, and that will give him a lot of punya. How much faith a person must be having even to cherish such kind of feeling, So that was the kind of person. Coming back to Gadadhar's mental attitude and behavior at this time. As already mentioned, Gadadhar's keen insight enabled him even at that young age to see through the motives of the actions of others. It did not take him long to realize that the only object of studying at school or of gaining distinction in studies was to enable a person to make money, or as he himself would put it, to bundle up rice and plantain. He also came to understand that no one who spent all his energy in that pursuit for the sake of worldly enjoyment could, like his father, be devoted to truth or acquire strength of character and realize God. Here is a concrete example of what Arjuna was talking. When great people die, means heroes die, men die. If there is a war, then the best of the blood would be lost. But that is the least bit of the loss. What is it that really people would lose? Values. And values are transmitted how? We discussed it. Values are always transmitted only through from generation to generation, from parents to children. If the parents themselves do not have values, then what are they going to transmit? Do they transmit anything? Yes, they would transmit. It is not question of whether a person is having value or values or not. It is the question of having, is it a worthwhile value or is it unworthy value? So nowadays, so many Indian parents, even here in the West also, they force their children practically to compete with everybody. That's why Asian children do much better than the local people by average. Why? What is the reason? All these people were born great. All these Asian children born great. We all inherit, albeit many times unconsciously, the values which were not being taught actually, but being lived by the parents. So that is one important thing here. This young Gadadhar, living in a remote village, not much education was there. His father was highly educated. He was educated, he could write, he knows Sanskrit, he knows how to do pujas, and he knows how to do a little bit of, day-to-day rituals, sacraments, and that is the end of it. That was the end of it. Were there lacking any values there? So 2 points we have to remember here. The first point was, Shudiram's character was extraordinary. It was not that everybody in that village was having the same values. Shudiram, Sri Ramakrishna's ideal, because his father was absolutely truthful and strength of character. So truthfulness and strength of character very closely related. What was the other quality he said? And devotion to God, extraordinary devotion to God. And his only aim was to realize God. From the very ancient times, in most religions, if you take Judaism for example, what is the goal of Judaism? What is the goal of any religion? Is to go to God. So that's why go to heaven. Attain the kingdom of heaven. Samadhi. Why? Because that is the source of security and unrestrained bliss. It is immortal life. We are going to discuss tomorrow, Sunday's class, Gnana Yoga. The very first chapter is called Necessity of Religion. Can we do away with religion? So, ordinary people, their understanding of religion is not religion, but certain religious type of behavior. Going to temples and having certain festivals, doing certain rituals, reading some books. Popularly, this is what is known as being religious. But Swami Vivekananda said, that kind of religion is just like school drill. It has nothing to do with the true religion. But he says religion is a necessity of man. But in brief what he says, that man wants to become free. As we are completely constrained, limited by the boundaries of our sense organs. How much can you see? As much as your eye. How much can you hear? As much as your ear can hear. How much can you eat? Can you eat as much as you wish? You wish to eat more. So our sense organs restrain us severely. And what is important here, the joy or the pleasure we derive comes from where? Comes from where? From the sense organs. By seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. There is nothing else. Our imagination, what we call mental operations, are also, they also follow what? Our sense organ only. Can you imagine something which you have never seen or heard or anything? Religion starts, in Swamiji's words, with the impelling of nature, hidden nature, which says you go beyond the limitations, any type of limitation. And limitations are mainly of two types. What are they? Time end space. You want to go beyond. Man wants to go beyond. Evolution is the explanation for an organism which is slowly trying to transcend the limits of time and space. That is why with human birth, human body, biological evolution come to an end. But then evolution doesn't end. What is the next evolution? So two more evolution. Mental, moral and spiritual. Mental means whatever sciences we have got. Moral means self-control, willpower, and ultimately spiritual evolution. Because there is there is something which wants to just move forward, go upward. What does that mean? Break the bounds of limitations. So this is inherent in everything, and that is the meaning of evolution. Man cannot help. Therefore, what is religion? A conscious attempt to go beyond the limitations of time, space and causation. If that definition is true, then can there be anybody who is free from religion? So religion is not attending the temples, churches or mosques or doing certain rituals. This is a way of slowly acclimatizing ourselves religiously so that we break the bonds, we expand. That is how Swami Vivekananda started the necessity of religions. It's a grand topic. So now here, Kshudiram, he had values. What is a value now? What is the relationship in what we are discussing about religion and values? What is value? Putting religion into practice is what we call values. If somebody goes to a temple, it is not the going to the temple or worshipping a particular form of god or goddess is not the ultimate goal. This is what impels us to develop certain mental attitudes. What is a value? It's a way we look upon ourselves, look upon life, look upon the world and forge a healthy relationship. A value is always development of a higher spiritual, moral relationship with ourselves as well as with others. Take a simple example. If you are asked, what is the essence of Judaism? So you may say, I am not a Jew. And what is the essence of Hinduism? Somebody may say, I am not a Hindu. What is the essence of Christianity? And we may say, I am not a Christian. So how do I know? So one man came to one rabbi and asked him, Sir, can you teach me in very few lines, what is the essence of Judaism? And he said, I will teach you in very simple. What is it? That do unto others what you wish others to do to you, and do not do unto others what you wish others should not do towards you. If you have understood this, you have understood the whole of Judaism. Remove now the word Judaism and replace it with anyism, including atheism, skepticism, etc. So what is the ultimate value? Ultimate value is to know what is truth, and to realize that truth, we have to live what we call truthful life. When we discussed first what is the meaning of satsanga, we gave the meaning, three meanings to the word sat. Satsanga means company of the sat, means holy. The English word holy doesn't give that kind of depth meaning. So what is the meaning of sat? The first meaning of sat means good company. So if we are in good company, then what would be its effect upon us? We also become good, because that is the power of company. What is the second meaning we gave to sat? Truthfulness. Sat means satya. The word satya came from the root sat. Satya means truthfulness. Practicing of truthfulness. What is truthfulness? What is the definition of truthfulness according to Sri Ramakrishna? Mon mok akora. To make the thought, the word and the deed one. That means there is no multiple personality. There is no split. I think one thing, I say something and I do totally a different thing. To feel and to say it and to do the same thing. That is why we trust a person. When we know a person is truthful, what is the first thing that we do? We can trust that person. Why? Because there is no duplicity in him. So we know that if he says something, he means it. That is the meaning of a truthful person. If he is helpless, that is a different issue. But he means it. He doesn't mean something else. So that is the second meaning of the word Sat. What is it called? Truthfulness. Observing truthfulness. Speaking truth. Satyam Vada. Dharmam Chara. So these are related topics. If you want to be truthful, you will have to practice dharma. Because what is dharma? To live truth is called dharma. This is Shankaracharya's wonderful definition. To speak the type of life we want to lead is called truthfulness. And to lead the type of life we want to speak, we are speaking of, is called dharma. Satya means theory and dharma means practice. This is the beautiful relationship between Satya and Dharma. Then what is the third meaning of Sat? Company of God. To live in the presence of God. What Brother Lawrence calls practice of the presence of God is the third meaning of Sat. Because Sat is a name of God. Satchidananda. Sat Chit Ananda. Kshudiram was an embodiment of Satya. So here there is something very important. Can a person live a truthful life without being devoted to God, without acknowledging? Is it ever possible? It is not possible. A man may not utter that the name of Rama or Krishna, but if he lives dharmic life and a truthful life, he is leading only a spiritual life. What is the example Swami Vivekananda gives? The highest of such human beings who never utters the name of God and yet living a godly life. Who? Lord Buddha. So was he living a life of godliness? Was he a man of God? He was a man of God. Because these three conditions, he was good, he was truthful, and he was only a realized soul. In fact, the very name Buddha indicates he was a realized soul. How does that accord? Buddha means what? One who is enlightened, Bodhi. So that is what every religion is trying to speak. Now when we come to Sri Ramakrishna's life, we were talking how values influence a person. It is not talking about the values, but it is living the values. Kshudiram now, what was the first characteristic you will see in him? He was a truthful person. What is the second characteristic that we see in him? Strength of character. And what is the last thing we see? He was feeling the presence of God. Because truthfulness is nothing but practicing the presence of God. These three cannot be separated. Very briefly, let us discuss what is the relationship between these two. Truthfulness, strength of character, and realization of God. These are the values which Sri Ramakrishna's father, Sri Ramakrishna's mother, both of them lived in their own way, and that what heavily influenced Sri Ramakrishna's life. What is the first thing? Truthfulness. Truthfulness requires tremendous amount of character. Even I can give you hundreds of examples. Nowadays a lot of books are coming, and you will see when you read the life of any great personality, the first thing you see is they cannot have strength of character. They cannot have character unless they are also truthful. And they cannot be truthful and have strength of character unless they have complete faith in what we call God. Sometimes they may not even use the word God, but every second of their life vibrates only with the meaning of God. Taking Kshudiram's life, if anybody loses everything that he has, and he lost whatever he had, and he was quite a well-to-do person, householder. He had, I think, about 33 acres of wetland, practically. Just imagine, 33 acres of wetland. And in one go, he lost his home, he lost his lands, he lost, in fact, everything. He had to come to Kamarpukur. Now, he lost everything he had, all because of what? Truthfulness. Now, if this event takes place in some people who are more or less truthful, but do not have the strength of courage, what would be the reaction in them? Either they will commit suicide, or they turn against God, or they become hopeless atheists who do not believe in God, and they will be usually depressed, develop a kind of negative outlook on life. Is it not? What was Kshudiram's reaction towards this? When he came to Kamarpukur, did you ever hear a single word of criticism against that Jamindar? Usually, if we encounter such situations, even if we don't go and talk outside, we can freely talk with our family members. Is there any record of Kshudiram ever broaching this subject and telling that rogue of a Jamindar did such and such things to me? Or on the contrary, what was his reaction? I also mentioned in this connection the story of Job in the Old Testament. God gives, God takes it away. That was Kshudiram's reaction. What was it? Rama gave and Rama has taken away. Everything is the will of Rama. He lived. To live that kind of life, ideal life, he was not depressed. And one or two more points, very interesting points are there. He was not depressed, he did not lose hope, and he did not lose, above all, happiness, joy in life, but he became more resigned to the will of God. Now I am going to put you one or two theoretical questions. Take this situation. Kshudiram had lost everything and he came to Kamarpukur. Before losing his property, what was his past habit or hobby? What was his real habit in life? Worshipping God. And when he worshipped God, did he get joy or not? Tremendous joy. After losing this one, was he worshipping God or not? And what type of worship was it? What kind of effect was it producing? Do you think, can you imagine, was in a morose way, oh God, I trusted you and this is what you brought me. Did you ever see? Joyfully he is left. And Swami Shardananji was describing, what happened? Now his mind is going more towards God than before. Do you see the difference? An ordinary person says, I had faith in God and this is the result. After that, will he lose faith or not? Even if by rote, by habit, goes to a temple or worships God. But if you take a photograph of his face, it would be very black type of face, is it not? Do you see the same thing? Total resignation to God. Is it a sign of spiritual progress or is it a spiritual digress? He resigned himself more. God cannot be put aside. His attachment to the world was tested here. So one of the tests of spiritual progress, what is it? Detachment from the worldly objects. Kshudiram has completely detached himself. So that is how he came to Kamarpukur. So his meditation did not become less, it became even more. Another point, if a person is with remorse looking backward why this happened, if he sits for meditation, will he be able to concentrate his mind or not? Can he say, when I am meditating upon God, I will forget all those negative experiences, I will just think about God. Is it possible? So, if it is possible to concentrate on God, under what conditions it is possible? Only one condition. He must be having total faith, not losing this bit of faith in God. In fact, his faith in God increases more. The more faith increases, the more concentration increases, the more joy increases, is it not? That was the result. We will see in Kshudiram's life. So this was the type of life Kshudiram led. And until Shudiram passed away for 7 or 8 years, Sri Ramakrishna Gadadhar was observing all these things in front of his eyes. Now it is not mentioned in the biography. What was Chandramani's reaction to this event? Very interesting. You don't get, because there is no history, only we are concerned with. But she also had this total faith in God. He is looking after me. I don't need to worry about it. It is divine will, divine mother's will or Rama's will. Otherwise, do you think God will be born in a family where people will be morose and depressed? It is impossible. Another fact also you can see. It is a well-known psychological fact. If parents are morose and depressed, what would be their effect upon the children? What do you see in Sri Ramakrishna's life from the very birth? Was he less happy or more happy? He was a embodiment of merriment, happiness. How is it possible that this boy could be so joyful, so happy, if his parents were truly to be morose and unhappy? Do you see the point? So much of background is there. Now you reflect upon it, your own family background, your own parents and your own companions, etc. See how much their influence also will be there upon our lives. Now you understand what is the meaning of satsanga. If this were the parents, and Sri Ramakrishna had high praise both for his mother as well as his father. If we trust Sri Ramakrishna's judgment about his own parents, if that was the case, was he living in the company of satsanga or not? Wonderful satsanga. How do we know? Because Sri Ramakrishna compared other people's lives to his own parents, and then he came to the conclusion that this is the goal of life. What is an education supposed to bring us? What is an education supposed to instill in us? Do you know what it is? This is what Swami Vivekananda's definition. Education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. That is a wonderful, like a seed which we have to nurture in our hearts and try to understand its meaning. What is the meaning of perfection? If I say I have hidden potential perfection in me, what does that mean? I have first, very briefly, I have the potential to become a very happy person. I have the potentiality to manifest perfection in some area of life. This is called speciality. And I have the potentiality to contribute something worthwhile in my life to the overall economy of the world. Something to contribute to the world. There is no person in this world who doesn't feel he has a duty to contribute something to the world. At least even the most narrowest type of personalities, at least they think we have a duty towards our families. Wife towards the husband, husband towards the wife, and parents towards the children, and children towards the parents. Certain duty is there. How do we know? So you neglect your parents, you neglect your family people. There are people who neglect, but a terrible thorn pricks them that I am doing something which I am not supposed to do it. It does it. So we know what a wonderful company the Ramakrishna had. That is the true education. And we also connect it with Taittiriya Upanishad, the convocation address, Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara, Swadhyayan Ma Pramadaha. These are the three important factors. The essence of a blueprint for whole life is the three factors. What are those? Satyam Vada, speak truth. Speak truth means what? Live truth, not simply speak truth. Dharmam Chara, put into practice all that you have learned. And what is the third one? Swadhyaya. What is Swadhyaya? It's a wonderful word, Swadhyaya. You always find out whether you are really living your true life, and this is what nowadays psychologists call authentic life. You know what is authentic life? Supposing there is somebody who feels, I love arts, but he becomes a man of science. We have sharp division. This is science, and this is literature, and this is art. So the whole education is divided into these three. There are many people who feel I could have been learned singing, I could have done painting, dancing, etc. They feel great joy in that. But if they neglect it, then they feel I'm not doing exactly, I may not know, but I feel I'm not doing what I am actually supposed to do. Or a scientist unfortunately becomes a school teacher, or then he also feels this is not my vocation. That is what is called live an authentic life. Means what? Find out what your propensities, inclinations, and these things are there, and then try to live that life. So your heart will be satisfied, your intellect will be satisfied, even your physical life also will be more fulfilling than anything else. Similarly, there are people who feel that they are inclined to more spiritual life. If they neglect, they also feel the same thing. But here we see in Kshudiram's life, so he was practicing truthfulness, he was practicing also dharma, not merely speaking the truth, but living truth 24 hours a day, and he is also at the same time totally devoted to God. What a marvelous thing, these 3 points. Coming back, these 3 things we said. What is the strength of character? Strength of character. What does it mean? Here is my goal. I want to lead a truthful life, a dharmic life. It is not easy. We also would like to do it. But what is it that prevents us from leading this kind of life? What is it? We don't have the strength of character, which is called nishtha. That nishtha, Sri Ramakrishna emphasizes very much, and especially in the spiritual context. You know what is Hanuman's nishtha? Hanuman's nishtha is I want to be devoted only to Ramachandra and nothing else. So that tremendous nishtha, in English language it is called grit. And one person has written a beautiful book on this particular subject, and it is titled G-R-I-T. That is the title of the book, Grit. And then there he says something very wonderful. I am just bringing up because it is somewhat related to our topic. So in the past I talked about willpower. So one man started his book with the test, marshmallow test. We all remember. That is willpower. How much time can I withstand temptation? In the second case, in this book, he gives another beautiful example, but extraordinary revelation is there. There is one military academy. It is called Sandhurst Military Academy. It is supposed to give the highest, most toughest type of military training to anybody, and it lasts around I think 4 to 4.5 years. And who will be joining? They must be very students of extraordinary grit. What is grit? The ability to continue in spite of impossible odds is called grit. This author brings one example, beautiful example. This is called treadmill test. A discussion arose because most people that are admitted, and they are admitted after many crucial tests, more than 3/4 of these people would not make it to the end. So this Sandhurst Military Academy employed some researchers and said, is it possible to find out who is going to stick and who is not going to stick? In that context, they devised this treadmill test. Very first day itself, treadmill? Oh, you have got very pleasant memories. I'll be munching some bread and slowly watering over. That is not the one. This treadmill, like an uphill, at the fastest speed, and only 1 or 2 students can stand for 4.5 minutes. Can you just imagine how much time? 4.5 minutes. If anybody can stand for 1.5 minutes, he is considered to be a very tough fellow. Most of the fellows will drop out. After dropping out, they say, sorry, we cannot pass the test. And so the test, the researchers, they have come across that is it possible to find out who is going to stick? Because it's very tough test. The testers also know about it. Then the psychologist puts a question. Instead of saying, throwing them out, why don't you put it to them that, okay, you failed today, but would you like to come back? And if you give them that choice, how many people will say, okay, yesterday I failed, but today let me give a try. Now, you listen to me carefully. It is whether they try it or not, that's not the point. The point is, the people say, okay, yesterday I failed, but what does it matter? I might succeed today. How many people would turn up with that positive attitude, let me try a second time, after having had a tough experience first day? That determines their grit. Even to think about that, okay, first time I failed, second time I failed, third time I failed, fourth time I failed, it doesn't matter. But never to give up what one has already fixed his mind upon, that is called grit. I have not come to the real point. So, they have put a number of people on this test. A few of them have succeeded, and then the test started. The psychologists kept their address and over the number of years started measuring their progress, like marshmallow test. And what they found was, the people who tried second time, third time like that, in every way, they turned out to be much more successful than the other people who gave up. And so there is a relationship between this treadmill test and the prosperity they attain in the future life. What is that factor? There is only one factor. What is that factor? Grit. Grit. What is grit? Never to give up. What is the Sanskrit word for grit? Nishtha. I will not give up. Even if I fail 1,000 times, I will not give up. Sri Ramakrishna, in his own simple words, he gives this beautiful. A calf, just born calf, tries to get up. Most of the time, it tumbles and falls down. And it falls down second time, falls down third time. Do you think it will give up? No, it will never give up. So, very soon, it not only gets up, it also starts running. You can see the nature's this thing, and sometimes they have to run at the same speed the mother is running. Here is a tiger or a lion chasing, and this calf is born just a few hours before. Do you know how it runs? If it doesn't run, it will die. As simple as that. So nature has provided it so that it will run to its mother speed. And this musk deer, reindeer. Reindeer, they have to give birth. After a few hours, the calves are running as fast as their mothers, even though the wolves and other things were chasing. What is that grit called? Strength of character and courage. That courage Khudiram had. Then what was the third one? It was all related only to God. This is very important, because if your value belongs to a temporary gain, say worldly goal, you cannot continue, because worldly goals are temporary, and anything that is temporary cannot inspire us permanently. This is the simple truth. And Sri Ramakrishna, you must remember, was extraordinarily observant. He was not a fool. And here is a question for you. Was he an impartial observer of people's character? From the very birth, he was only evaluating everything. He was observing everybody, how people were behaving. All his teachings is about marrying, about begetting children, about going to law courts, etc. These are all born out of his experiences from his childhood. He was an extraordinarily observant person, and he was coming to the conclusion. That's what he was fulfilling. The teachings of the Upanishads, Pariksha Lokan Karma Chitan, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is one beautiful Pariksha Lokan Karma Chitan. Having examined the lives of people who are related to Karma Chitan, means related to rituals and other things. What do these? They attain to take to sannyasa. Why? What are we going to do with wealth? What are we going to do with wives and family life? what are we going to do with this kind of learning? All the desires a human being can have been divided into three. Dharaishana, Putraishana, Vittaishana. Dharaishana means desire for wife. Putraishana means desire for children, son especially. And Vittaishana means what? The desire for wealth. Wealth means what? The means of enjoying worldly life, which Sri Ramakrishna had made into two Aishanas. What are they? He condensed it into two, Kama and Kanchana. It is the same thing. So Sri Ramakrishna also Parikshya Kamar Pokura Vasinaha. So having observed carefully, he came to this conclusion. What are those conclusions? A person must live truthful life. A person must have extraordinary character, courage in order to live that kind of life. Otherwise, whole life they cannot continue. Once or twice they might, but whole life they will not. And if it is not related to God also, they cannot live that kind of life. This is what we say. I will read once more. As already mentioned, Gadadhar's keen insight enabled him, even at that young age, to see through the motives of the actions of others. Therefore, it didn't take him long to realize that the only object of studying at school or of gaining distinction in studies was to enable a person to make money, or as he himself would put it, to bundle up rice and plantain. He also came to understand that no one who spent all his energy in that pursuit for the sake of worldly enjoyment could, like his father, be devoted to truth, acquire strength of character, and realize it. With this, we get a few beautiful points. First point is values can be transmitted only by life and not by any academic type of reading or teaching. Second, if we want to live a life of truth, we must have extraordinary strength of character. Otherwise, we cannot sustain it. And last is, unless our goal is oriented towards God, it is not possible to live a truthful life. It is not possible to have strength of character, because only that goal called God realization can give foundation to these two extraordinary qualities. That should be the parents should live that kind of life. Then only there is a chance that the children will imbibe that. Otherwise, if the parents live whatever kind of life, it has a tremendous influence upon the children. That is why if parents are not happy, their children will not be happy. If parents are in a drunken state, quarreling, then the children are likely to develop into murderers, killers, psychopaths, etc. That is where values are very important. Values can be transmitted only through living life to their children. They, as we say, they can be only caught. They cannot be taught. Values cannot be taught. They can be only caught. This is a very famous, what is called, any skill in life cannot be taught. It can only be caught. So this is the beautiful life. But at the same time, Gadadhar also, Ramakrishna's whole idea, why did he reject this so-called education? Here, two important points come. What is the meaning of education? Second, why did Sri Ramakrishna reject education? Did he reject education, or did he reject the type of education that was prevailing at that time? So if you come to the first conclusion, he rejected totally education, this would be what is called the wrongest conclusion anybody can come. On the other hand, he encouraged every one of his disciples to have education. And how do we know? Because Sri Ramakrishna's teachings are now in no way different from Swami Vivekananda's teachings, or in no way different from Sri Ramakrishna's teachings, is it not? So what was Swami Vivekananda's ultimate solution for all ills of life? Do you know what? Education, education, and education. And it is having extraordinary effect. In one way, it is a lot of Indian problems everywhere are being solved only through the power of education. So what is education here? Not the amount of rote that stands in the brain. What Swami Vivekananda meant, education means formation of character, and character means the ability. Two important points in the educational scheme of Swami Vivekananda. The first point is develop the power of concentration. So what does that mean? Who can have power of concentration? Only a person who has got tremendous self-control. He alone can have power of concentration. And secondly, what he meant by education is the power of discrimination, cutting down what is right, what is wrong. We are all influenced by emotion. Our discrimination follows what? Emotions. Whereas emotions should follow our reasoning. So we put the cart before the horse. Reason is supposed to lead us, and emotions is the cart, and reason is the horse. Whereas here, in our case, it is the emotion which leads the reason by its nose. Swami Vivekananda's points of education, these two. What is it? Self-control. That's why he insisted so much on brahmacharya. He says the very essence of education is brahmacharya. What is brahmacharya? Self-control. That is all. And if we have self-control, we have focus, concentration. And what is the second point? Focus one may have, but one may not have the reasoning power. This is extraordinary points which Swami Yatishanandaji mentions. Do not develop concentration unless you have become pure. Otherwise, if you develop the power of concentration, you might misuse it, what we call misuse it, for your own pet schemes. Like Hitler is the example. Hitler, Saddam Hussein, Iran, Iraq, so many other countries are developing these weapons of destruction. For what purpose? They have developed extraordinary weapons, but at the same time, these weapons are used for what? Discriminately or indiscriminately. And this discrimination is followed by what? Reason or emotion. So these 2 points, development of character, covers everything. But he says power of concentration as well as power of discrimination or reasoning. That is the very essence of education. In this book I was referring, I came across an extraordinary idea, the difference between talent and skill. At first I couldn't understand what is the meaning of it. Here is a person who is very talented, means he is very skillful. We use these words synonymously. He says talent is somehow nature given. A person has a good voice, talent is there. Skill is something which human being develops through habit. This is an extraordinarily great revelation for me. That means what? Anybody who has got this skill, he can excel anytime, the person who has got talent. And there are very valuable points and which help me to understand Sri Ramakrishna Swamiji even better than before. But for our purpose, we will conclude our talk on Sri Ramakrishna with this. The conclusion is Sri Ramakrishna Gadadhar was very much influenced by his parents. And through that values, because his parents were living the life of values, and through the eyes of those values, he was testing everybody in the village and found them wanting. So these people, they all wanted to be educated. What is the purpose? Not to acquire values, but to acquire certain worldly, what is called comforts, worldly powers, etc., money, etc. If that is the goal of education, Sri Ramakrishna put his foot down and said, I don't want this kind of education. So, important point for us to understand is Sri Ramakrishna was not an enemy of education. He was an enemy of education if it is defined as what is called fostering one's own vested interests, worldly enjoyments, or that which increases worldly bondage. That is what he did not want. Then what was his value of education? That which develops truthfulness, that which develops strength of character, and that which takes us slowly towards God, that alone is worthy of education. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu.